We are Britain's news channel.
Yes, it's Saturday night, and this is the Saturday 5 Extra, the UK's biggest Saturday night TV show. I'm Alex Armstrong, along with Will Kingston. We've just taken a sip of the beer. By the way, it's already hit me. Dr. Renee Trello and Benjamin Butterworth. Tonight on the show,
we answer your questions in Ask the Five.
We're going to discuss the serious subject of a strawberry and cream cheese sandwich.
And of course, we've got high fives and lighter stories of the week.
And lots more triggered tantrums. And meet the Arab Muslim refugee to Europe who says we're in danger of being as bad as the Middle East.
It's 8 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5 Extra. It's our favourite part of the show because guess what? We've all got alcohol. We've got bevies here. What have you got, Benjamin? It's a bit darker than the rest of ours.
Yeah, don't panic. It's cider.
Thank God for that. This has been quite a good... you guys like to rate the beer pour every week. And I don't know who's poured this. One of my producers will tell me in a second. But I have to say this is one of the better ones. Yeah. One of our editors, Joe Casper, once poured the worst pint. And we're not going to let him live it down until he comes on air and pours it live on air.
But do you remember he tried to get away with it by saying that in the television business you need to have more head on the beer so that you can see it on cameras. It's like, the McDonald's burger, which needs to be just perfect.
The problem with this is Benjamin's going to want to come back.
Yeah. Well,
for
it's
a free cider.
It's a pre-drink.
That's actually my fee for the whole show.
He's a cheap date. Very cheap. Don't forget, gbnews.com/YourSay so you can get your questions in for Ask the Five. They're coming in now. We're about to do it. So, before we start tearing each other apart, though, it's Saturday Night News with the fabulous Mark White. Fabulous.
Good evening. The latest headlines from the GB News Centre. The Glastonbury Music Festival has been hit by fresh controversy after one of the acts was heard chanting death to the Israeli military. Punk duo Bob Vylan, the act performing directly before Irish-language rap trio Kneecap, appeared to lead crowds in chants of Free Palestine and death to the IDF.
Free, free! Free, free! But have you heard this one, though? Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF!
Well, the BBC chose not to stream Kneecap's performance at Glastonbury after one of the band members was charged with a terror offence in May. A number of politicians, including the Prime Minister, had called for the Irish hip-hop group to be banned from the festival. It follows allegations that band member Liam O'Hara displayed a flag in support of the proscribed terrorist group Hezbollah during a concert last year. In their Glastonbury set, the group led the crowd in an expletive-laden chant against Sir Keir Starmer. 2 more people have been arrested on suspicion of terror offences after aircraft at an RAF base were sabotaged in a move claimed by Palestine Action. Counter-Terrorism Policing South East said 2 men, both from London, were taken into custody earlier today. They're accused of the commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism after the attack on 2 tanker aircraft at RAF Bryce Norton just over a week ago. On Friday, a woman and 2 men, also from London, were arrested, accused of the same offence. The Home Secretary has moved to proscribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organisation. 5 children have been taken to hospital after a tree fell in a park in Essex. All 3 emergency services were called to Chalkwell Park in Southend late this afternoon. 2 reports of a number of casualties. An East of England ambulance service spokesperson said the 2 children were taken to Southend University Hospital with serious injuries. A further 3 children were transported to the same hospital with minor injuries. Economists are warning of tax rises that are likely in the autumn following the government's major U-turn on welfare reforms. The Prime Minister announced the concessions yesterday to try and avert a rebellion by more than 120 Labour backbenchers. The changes mean only new claimants will face stricter checks to decide their eligibility. The Prime Minister said fixing the welfare system is a moral imperative. Border Force has seized £100 million worth of cocaine at a UK port. The drugs were found under containers on a ship arriving into London Gateway port from Panama. It's one of the largest cocaine hauls since records began. Meanwhile, the National Crime Agency is investigating after a major weapons and drug seizure in Dover. 20 firearms and rounds of ammunition were recovered, along with 180 kilograms of ketamine. That's it. You're right up to date with the latest headlines. Now, if you thought they were argumentative before, now they've got the booze out.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back. Sorry, I'm just making up my
Alex, you're on a national television show, mate.
You just swallowed
Not
before you
vodka,
started.
it's only beer, I promise. Welcome back to the Saturday 5 Extra. It's now time for Ask the 5. Yes, we love this part of the show because not only do we read your comments out from your site en masse if we can, but we also have videos from you. And here's the first one.
Hi, it's Craig from St Albans here. With the Church of England announcing this week that they are preparing the church for war, how close do you think we are to World War III?
Oh, how depressing, Craig.
Can you just paraphrase that for me?
Yes, yeah. For those in the studio who couldn't hear it, Craig said, how close are we to World War III, given that the church said it's preparing for war? I mean, are we preparing for another crusade? What kind of war are they preparing for?
I don't think there's going to be a Third World War. I'm quite sick of hearing about Third World Wars.
Now.
No, I mean, come on.
Benjamin keeps flying into countries and they end up bombing each other. You were in Yemen at some point, were you not?
I was in Yemen, Iraq, Iran. Not Iran. I've not done Iran. Maybe next week.
I've done Iran. So we team up, we can do World War III.
But I got caught in Israel, so I can tell you war isn't much fun. But no, the church didn't help me, so...
Yeah, no.
I think we are going to end up in war by the end of the decade. I really do. I think it's very, very likely.
But I think we're talking about the wrong war. Like when we were talking about the military strategy that was released from the UK recently, they kept talking about the threat from Russia. There is no threat from Russia towards the UK. Sure. And I think now that Iran has been neutered, what did he say before? Denuded? Well, that word from Renee.
Denuded.
I don't think they're as much of a threat anymore, but China remains a great geopolitical threat, and we're not talking enough about it.
You're absolutely right. There is no threat for the Middle East to the West, and I think people need to be reminded that NATO is the most powerful military organisation. They could take on Russia and China currently at the same time with their military capacity. It wouldn't be nice, don't get me wrong, and I don't want it, but I don't think there's any threats quite now.
Can I was just to give you a fact. There are the most countries involved in conflict now that there have been since the Second World War.
Yes.
So there is...
I also think we are actually having another subliminal war that we have to be very careful of, where we are being infiltrated by people who care nothing for our way of life, our culture, and those people can, at points, be radicalised and are very dangerous. And so that war may happen here within our culture.
But they are connected, because if there is a hard war, a hot war, I should say, there's going to be less people who are going to be motivated to fight for this country or fight for the West more generally because they are not invested in the country because of that subversive war.
We shouldn't hope for it, because if you don't like the illegal migrant crisis now, if there's World War III, it'll be everywhere, trust me, and they'll be coming here because we're pretty well protected. Anyway, on that cheery note, let's go to question 2.
Hi, panel. So we are experiencing some extremely fabulous weather here in the UK at the moment. But I don't know about you, I am sweating. So what are your top tips to keep cool in this fabulous, I wouldn't say Mediterranean, but certainly gorgeous sunny weather?
Well, thank you, Julie. If you hadn't noticed my glorious tan, I've just had a lovely trip back from Corfu, so I'm quite acclimatised now. It's 30 degrees out there pretty much most days. The difference being that I had a swimming pool and could cool myself off whenever I fancied it. Oh, poor me. But it's not the same. And I know this. I know I've seen Aussies talk about this on social media now. British heat is not the same, is it, Will?
No, it's not. It's less humid, but also I think, and maybe it's repaired now, but for a period of time there was a big hole in the ozone layer above Australia.
There was.
Is that repaired now? Oh, that's good. Oh, what a win. But nonetheless,
go back.
I still think it's interesting how you're all for deportations in certain circumstances, aren't you, Benjamin? My tips. Well, I actually tried to get Alex on this one earlier, and that was a really good hard burn at the start of summer stops you from getting cancer. Provides a protective coating.
Straight to the
doctor.
At all.
Whatsoever.
Nonsense. Paddling pools are very cheap in Argos. Wear a bikini at all times or as often and as much as you can.
Here.
Okay. I got a good one, actually. There's a guy who's a social media guy, black guy, looks buff. He's like my gym idol now.
Yeah.
And he does this thing where he puts the water and he puts the ice, he puts it in his face. You guys must have seen that.
I have, yeah.
Have you not seen that?
That
actually works.
People of him, though, aren't they? They're taking the mickey out.
But he's making an absolute fortune. But it actually works. So basically, you put like water and ice into a bowl, put your face in it, and it cools you right down. That's my top tip.
But Benjamin, what's your top tip for staying cool?
Well, I'm with Joan Collins, which is she's never been in the sun. She always has a big hat or an umbrella. She just stays out of it, and she looks incredible at
And
night.
yet she still needs
So I just
braces.
avoid it.
I was going to say he's definitely with Joan. Look at the wrinkle on that forehead, and he frowns more than anyone else does.
But it really is hot here. When I was evacuated from the Middle East last week, it was 29 degrees in Jordan. When I landed back here, it was 32 degrees in England.
It's not that hot.
Britain on sea, bring it on.
I love it.
Warning will be great.
Climate change.
We can grow our own wine here. It would be brilliant for us.
do.
We could grow more
Good wine. We got good wine over here, yeah.
All right, let's move on. Question 3.
Rupert Lowe has posted on social media this weekend, and to quote him, that straight white British men are now the most discriminated group in the UK by a mile. Does the panel agree with this? And if so, how does this situation get reversed and resolved?
Interesting stuff, Will. I want to throw straight to you this because you're best mates with Rupert Lowe, aren't you?
Yeah, so the question was broadly, are white working-class men the most discriminated against
And how
group?
do we resolve it? Is it true? How do we resolve it?
Yeah, well, from a purely legalistic framework perspective, of course it's true, because there are now DEI policies across pretty much every major corporate, across the bureaucracy, across the media. So from a legal perspective, no doubt it's true. I also think now you look at the way that this government has nothing but disdain for the white working class, it is also true. Unfortunately, how you resolve it is a much more difficult question. But I think it starts, to be honest, with people...
DEI?
Yeah, true. I think certainly the type of Trump-style cultural vibe shift that reform could bring is important. But it starts with people having the courage to call out this obvious truth as opposed to going along with the woke nonsense like we have for 10 years.
Troy?
I disagree in some ways. I think discriminated most. No, that's not true. I think if you look at social housing, you look at in terms of social mobility, you look at income, just because you see more black faces in adverts doesn't mean that suddenly, ethnic minorities have been elevated.
That's not necessarily connected to racism.
No, but I'm saying that's not... I think there are some groups that generally are discriminated. If you look at sentencing for young black boys, it's always going to be more clear discrimination. However, what you said is true is this. I think it's just become fair game. If you're white and you're working class, it's become fair game for people just to have you be the bad guys. And that is wrong. That needs to change. Especially for young working class white boys as well, who are failing behind.
Underperforming.
Who are
Benjamin,
now,
have you watched Adolescence recently?
I don't admit to not having watched it. Actually, I started watching it and found it quite dull. But
it was extremely dull.
The truth is, the bit that matters is the working class bit.
Yes.
That's where the barriers come from, and that's where judgment still comes from.
Agreed.
The idea, though, that a straight white middle-class guy faces barriers is just nonsense, right? Gay people in workplaces still overwhelmingly don't come out to their colleagues because they worry it will affect their perception. There are plenty of situations where we know that people from ethnic minority backgrounds with a non-British name are judged on the CV. That's actual barriers.
OK, well, look, I have to come back on this gay stuff because, quite frankly, I think it's ridiculous. Gay people have privilege in the workplace.
Oh, come on.
They do. The DEI programmes for
You were
LGBT...
a DEI hire.
Well, am I? If I am, so are you. You've been on this channel far longer than I have, mate.
God, let the beers flow.
I might be more DEI with this nice tan, actually. Maybe I'll get some extra points. But, you know, but this is the truth. Gay people do have DEI programmes. Where's the DEI programme for working-class white boys? Straight working-class boys, there ain't one.
I broke through the glass ceiling on this show by not being gay.
Yeah.
Which I
think Trey might be ticking some boxes as well.
Yeah, I've got a couple of boxes.
It did used to be called the Soho 5, this show. Not unironically. What do you make of this topic?
I think you're completely wrong, actually, and I see it, especially in London, actually. I know plenty of middle-aged white men who are just discarded now. They don't even apply for jobs because they won't get them, Benjamin. So... yes, there might still be some homophobia somewhere. I don't know. It's certainly not in media, is it?
Yeah.
But, you know...
I try my best.
Rupert Lowe is right. How we fix it, I really don't know.
I got a great... a friend of the show sent me a picture, and I'm going to bring it up at some point. I'm asking my producers to do this. Maybe some point in the show... you know, there's a powerful man on this panel. He is 87th most powerful. And I will bring this picture to you when I can, but I don't want to release it, so stay tuned because you're not going to want to miss who the 87th most powerful man on this channel is. Anyway, let me just read out a couple more of your says here, because we had some really good Ask the Fives. You know, I think you guys might have been drinking as well, because David and Stephen have had a little bit of a spat here on your say. David said, and I'm quoting, I'm not saying this, hands up all those women of a certain age who miss and love sex. Right? Stephen wrote, your chat-up line needs work, Dave.
Oh, that's great banter.
Great banter. Talking about this tantrum we're going to talk about later, which is a very oversized person, Angela says, slim people are paying for fat people's clothes.
Here.
This is quoting, I'm quoting again. I am size 10, 12, and my clothes are the same price as a 20 or 22 size. You could make 2 items for me from the same amount of materials it takes to make one of theirs, and their items are the same price they're being paid to be greedy. You know what? Do you think they're paid to be greedy, the fatties?
I don't think most of the cost of clothes in a high street store is actually the material. I think it's the branding, and but you know, she can make her own clothes if she's that bothered.
Renee.
Sorry, Renee.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, I agree with that. When you buy baby clothes, they actually go up in price, as you will discover, Trey, as that child gets bigger. And I also think when people get on planes and start moaning about, you know, being oversized, I'm charged if I have a pound of extra weight if I get on a Ryanair or a thing. But you can be 3 times my weight and get on a plane quite happily. Why doesn't that upset the balance?
Yeah, well...
yeah, that's exactly where I was going. I was going to ask...
lost for word. I won.
I was going to ask the panel, and I'll start with Benjamin. Do you think that fat people should be forced to pay for 2 seats on an airplane?
Well, if they take up more than 1 seat and they need the second, then yes. But very few people would be in that category.
But what about
and they shouldn't pay extra just because they're overweight and fit in a seat.
Quick fire round before we move on. Jono says, ask the 5, is it acceptable for the BBC to broadcast political acts from Glastonbury? Will?
No.
Yes.
No.
Renee?
Not when they're threatening death.
Trey?
Yes, freedom of speech.
Benjamin?
If they knew it was going to happen, they wouldn't have done it. You know, it was live. And I think they should put out a statement saying, you know, we wouldn't have endorsed it.
Yeah, OK.
Not freedom of speech to threaten death, Trey.
No, if it breaks the law, then no, but generally freedom of speech. And if it goes beyond that, let the law deal with it.
One word answer for you on this one, then. Darth Sin. Well, wow, a very Star Wars-friendly name there. What I want to ask the 5 is why haven't any party in government thought about making it a deportation-only prison? And why aren't illegal migrants tracked via an app on their phones? Quick one word, 2-word answer, Will?
Cowardice.
Renee?
Don't want to.
Trey?
Too much bureaucracy.
We don't even have prisons for domestic criminals, let alone more. It's true.
They're overflowing, Benjamin. They're overflowing. They're coming back on the streets. OK, next, we'll be talking about the fall of Europe to jihadis and terrorist sympathisers with a journalist, very brave journalist, who has a unique perspective on the destruction we are facing. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss this interview. See you shortly.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
You have to tackle gross levels of inequality. Now, this is not about being... it's not about fairness or the politics of envy. It's about saying we need more money in average people's pockets so they can go out and spend. What's happening is a lot of people are spending all their money on rent and mortgages.
People and give it to poorer people.
Yeah, but obviously, when I say rich, who do you imagine?
No, well, I don't know, because I'm not proposing it. You tell me.
So for me, I'm not talking about those who've done quite well, those who've grown their businesses. I'm talking about the billionaire class and the corporations. Oh. And I don't want to look at increasing income taxes necessarily. It should be about a wealth tax, because if we don't do anything about it, it's going to get worse. Now, what's interesting what you said about benefits, I know there's this pervasive idea. I just want to make that point quickly.
Let him finish his point. She's about to spontaneously combust, but hang on. Go on, finish your point.
There is this pervasive idea that, well, we need to cut benefits to force people into work. And you can understand the logic there. It makes sense, right? What's interesting is in Denmark, they have a higher labour rate of participation, which a fancy phrase of more working age people are in work than the UK. In 2022, it was like 80%, 2024, 75%. Look at the UK, only 53% of people in work, yet Denmark have a far higher or far generous welfare state.
Well, we've had a lot of cheap labour that has come in, which that's taken the levels of earnings down at times, and that's left...
I disagree with that.
Well, just let me finish. And that's left a lot of people who already live here, basically lounging on the sofa and thinking, well, my benefits are great, why should I get out of bed? Why should I get out of bed for another 20 quid a week? And we've got to get rid of that mentality, because it's the same people...
You're using anecdotes here. You're not looking at the facts.
People
I've told you the facts.
Who seem to be contributing to this economy year in and year out, and a lot of them are actually older.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5 Extra. It's our favourite time because we get to drink during this part of the show. Thank you for your messages so far. Let's see what other chaos you've been unleashing on us very quickly. Jim says people who weigh less should get more baggage allowance.
Yes.
That's quite a long way.
That's the other side of the coin.
Yeah. Interesting idea. Sell it to Jet2 Holidays or any other company you may wish. Elizabeth says, are we bothered about the disabled getting into work, as so many complaints are being made about how much we claim? Interesting. Yes, big benefits discussions happening across the country right now. And Helen says, DEI just stands for division, envy, it's not quite right, and instability, and the impact it's having it is just sinister and deliberate. I agree, Helen. It's completely ridiculous. DEI needs to die, D-I-E. Now, moving on. Many are concerned about the fall of Europe as terror attacks from jihadis have taken place across the continent, as well as the growing sympathy for the barbaric groups such as Hamas and Hezbollah. Today, at Glastonbury, the regular chants of Free, Free Palestine were followed by Death to the IDF. Well, someone concerned about this growing problem is a refugee from Yemen who moved to Sweden while has been perplexed while growing up in Europe when he saw the same culture there as that of his place of birth? Well, to discuss this, I'm very pleased to welcome a very brave journalist and writer, Luai Ahmed. Luai, thank you so much for joining us. You've got a friend here who you've met, of course, Benjamin Butterworth, on your travels. But I want to get sort of into the crux of some of your great journalism. You have moved from a war-torn country and settled in Sweden. How's your experience been in Sweden since resettling there?
Well, to summarize it, one of the reasons I moved to Sweden is because I was gay in the closet. And the refugee camp that I moved to in Sweden turned out to be an ISIS refugee camp, as I call it. There were 60 other refugees that lived there, and I found myself living in the closet again because everybody there was adhered to Islamic fascism. In fact, when the Charlie Hebdo attack happened, where journalists basically just drew Prophet Muhammad and were massacred by terrorists in Europe, practically everybody in the refugee camp was celebrating that terrorism. Fast forward 10 years later, and now we see mass celebrations of terrorism. And we just saw it a few hours ago in Glastonbury, where Bob Dylan literally screamed death to the IDF and from the river to the sea in front of hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
We're basically seeing the normalization of.
Yeah, I think we've lost you there, Luai. Well, hopefully we'll get you back in just a moment. Of course, you're seeing
Europeans and European politicians are not relativizing it.
Yeah, sorry, Luai, we lost you there for a moment with the connections a little bit difficult there. But we've got the crux of what you were saying. And, of course, we've been showing the scenes there of Glastonbury here in the UK. A lot of people are, of course, here on the panel concerned about what we've been hearing from Glastonbury. Of course, as Luai was saying, there's thousands of people at these events. And Benjamin made a really good point earlier on that, you know, the October 7th attacks in Israel were committed at a music festival. So how distasteful is this stuff, Benjamin?
Exactly, and those were innocent people that were celebrating music. Also, it's no secret, you know, they were quite liberal left-wing. Some of them were on drugs. That affected how much risk they were in when the terrorists came. Yeah. They were doing things that young people having fun at a festival do, just like Glastonbury, and they were murdered because of who they are, because those terrorists hate the freedom that those people had. I spoke to a survivor of that day, and she told me that because some of these ravers had taken drugs, they went in the direction of the terrorists to give them a hug, and that was how they were killed. I think it makes it obvious which version of the world you want to be in.
Yeah, we've got Luai with us, but he's going to be on audio for a moment as well. So, Luai, we can hear you, and we can see a shot of you. Hopefully it's a good shot. I can't see from here. We don't want to do any injustice. But, Luai, listen, I want to bring in my panel as well in this conversation because, you know, there's a lot of concern here in the UK about people coming into the country, particularly illegal migrants, who might not have the best of intentions of our country, which has been very accepting of gay people, very accepting of many different cultures, actually. But we're worried now, a lot of people are worried, that actually we're getting an infiltration of people who may have the same or hold the same ideology of those who committed some of the atrocities on October 7th.
Right. So I do think that Europe in general is not.
OK, unfortunately, I think we've lost Luai again now. I really do apologise for this. I'm going to open this up to the panel.
And along with
Will, what do you make of those comments there? From, of course, Luai has come from a war-torn country, somewhere Yemen, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was Yemen, a place where things like homophobia are rife. It's not even acceptable to be gay. He's gone to Sweden hoping he could find a better life there, and unfortunately, he's found the same people are following around the world.
Yeah, the term that comes to mind both is what we just heard, and then what Benjamin said earlier is the term from Gad Saad, and that is suicidal empathy. Yeah. And I think we've seen across the Europe for decades now this suicidal empathy that says we can see the problems that mass migration cause, particularly from countries that don't share our values, but we're going to, you know, to use that awful but very poignant example, run towards the threat as opposed to running away from it. I do wonder now whether the penny is starting to drop in Europe.
Benjamin, I have to ask you this. I'm going to come to Dr. Renee in a moment because I want to get your thoughts on this. But, Benjamin, you know, a lot of people on this panel, maybe all of us to some extent, are not happy with the illegal migrant crisis for these exact reasons. We do not want to see the atrocities recommitted, and we don't want to see our country slowly turn into a place that's hostile to gay people when we've broadly accepted...
And women.
And women, exactly. And women, exactly. And people from different ethnic minorities, frankly, as well. Not just white people, it's black people and everyone else and other different races and religions. Do you sympathise with that opinion?
Well, there's obviously a danger to not knowing who's coming into the country, but the truth is, what we've seen in the mainstreaming of these arguments actually wasn't by people that came on a boat on the Channel. It's by white middle-class people that are going out and telling everyone else that they shouldn't be afraid of this, that they're sympathising with the likes of Hamas. It's people with quite a lot of privilege in British society. And the reason they can behave like that is because they don't have to live with any idea of what that threat is like. You know, I've been to Israel 4 times, and when I went there in the last week or two, the one thing that struck me is just how Israel is a miracle. The number of different types of people that live in that land and are able to be themselves. And Luai would say this himself if we get him back. But, you know, the only place in the Middle East that would give a Palestinian gay man or a Palestinian woman full rights? Israel.
Yes.
That is the only place that does that. Now, it still has problems. It definitely has racism towards those people. And, you know, I heard from people that would say that. So, you know, it's not pretending it's the perfect country. But I tell you what, it's got a respect for human rights and humanity that its neighbours damn well don't.
And it is a democracy.
Yeah.
I mean, look, what worries me about this, and it would be interesting if we get Lauren back, I would have loved to ask him, as the mother of a 6-year-old girl, I am terribly worried about the Islamification of Europe and where that goes in terms of women's rights in the future. And I think every woman should be worried about it.
And we won't be able to talk about it if this new Islamophobia guidelines come to pass. That's the really scary thing coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something we need to be worried about. And I think if we're even more worried if it's Prime Minister Rayner. I suspect she's probably more pro that than anybody. But Trey, what do you make of Luai's comments there? Because I think that it does strike a chord with a lot of British people. And one of the things people are terrified about in this country is elements of their culture being completely eradicated and when they're told to shut up when they question these things.
So this is why I said I've only ever voted once in my life, because when I voted for Tony Blair, and then we went into war in Iraq. And I think what we don't speak about enough is why we don't advocate for not doing regime change, why we don't advocate enough for not destabilising these regions. We all know often when we bring democracy or freedom to this country, those countries end up balkanised. What then happens, you either create a vacuum where someone like ISIS then evolved or comes out of it, or some sort of destabilisation, which means there'll be mass migration to Europe. Why don't we stop doing that? Because a lot of people that come, I know my wife is Libyan, if that country hadn't been destabilised, she probably would have still stayed there. I think we need to stop destabilising the Middle East, because then you won't have these waves in the first place. That's one of the issues, I think.
I've spent so much time saying that Western interventionism has failed.
It's failed again and again and again.
There's multiple people...
But it has done that.
And I do agree that what Trump has done with the strikes in Iran has been targeted, and it hasn't been... They even said they don't want regime change. They just want to wipe out their ability to have nuclear weapons.
I quite like the fact that Trump stopped. And I hope he does stay to his word, because I think he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. And I wish he is what he said he was. He said no more wars. He was always criticising Obama for those wars. I wish he stops.
I agree with you in all of that. I'm not going to disagree. However, one only needs to go back to Douglas Murray's first book, which was War on the West, where we have bent over backwards because we're so embarrassed about colonialism around the world that we have allowed these radical Islamists to spread throughout the world. And it wasn't war that did that. It was a plan to do it. And that's what we should be scared of.
OK. Right. Well, a slight change of tune now as we come on to a little bit of a lighter part of the show. There's more of this to come. Check this out.
My body isn't the problem. The system is.
Well, I was about to say something. I'm not going to say it. More triggered tantrums coming, and High Five is where we take a look at the stories that have cheered us up throughout the week, including a new controversial M&S sandwich. We'll see you there.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading further afield for a holiday over the next few days, windy in Greece, but widespread sunshine for much of the Mediterranean. And I suspect increasingly hot in many places. We've got a keen breeze for Madeira and the Canaries, nothing unusual for the time of year. The heat continues to build through Spain, Portugal, France and Italy. Temperatures high 30s and in some places low or even mid-40s. Very breezy through Greece, but staying largely sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It's been a very warm day for many of us today, and that heat continues to build over the next couple of days, particularly across the southeast, all thanks to an area of high pressure that's building from the south of the UK, pushing its way north and eastwards over the next couple of days. We do still have this weather front across northern areas, though. That will continue to bring some cloud and rain as we head through the rest of Saturday evening, mainly across northwestern parts of England, perhaps into northern parts of Wales, southwest England too. But elsewhere, generally a dry night to come, plenty of clear spells into the early hours of Sunday morning, and a very mild night to come too. Temperatures in the south not dropping below the high teens for many places. A little fresher further north, but still staying well into the double figures for most places. So a very mild start to the day on Sunday, perhaps still quite a cloudy start across parts of Wales, southwest England. We could continue to see some outbreaks of patchy rain and drizzle. Elsewhere in England, though, generally a dry and bright start to the morning, and a similar picture too across parts of Northern Ireland. Scotland generally seeing some early sunshine as well, plenty of clear and blue skies through the morning. One or two isolated showers across the very far northeast, but elsewhere staying dry to start on Sunday. That cloud does continue across parts of Wales, southwest England as we head through the afternoon. Maybe one or two isolated showers just feeding into Northern Ireland, and some longer spells of rain into northwest Scotland too. But elsewhere, generally staying dry, plenty of sunshine on offer as we head through Sunday afternoon. And again, feeling really warm across the southeast, highs of 29, 30, potentially 31 degrees, and even across parts of Scotland into the low 20s. A very mild start to the day on Monday, potentially a little warmer start on Monday compared to Sunday. The northwest does continue to see some outbreaks of potentially quite heavy rain feeding in from the northwest, but for much of England and Wales, a dry and bright afternoon to come. And the temperatures likely peaking on Monday or Tuesday, around 34, potentially 35 degrees, but then feeling fresher by the middle of the week.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5 Extra. We've all had a top-up. We've had a top-up of the pints.
That's right.
What did you... Oh, actually, you can't say what you call it in Australia because we were taken off air. Yeah. We're about to go to High Five. It's our favourite moments from the past week, and these are really lovely, lighter topics just to lift your mood up, towards the evening. Just that's what we do. So, who wants to take us off first? Will?
I'll kick off. Thanks, Alex. It is the first day of the British and Irish Lions tour of Australia. They kicked off with a resounding 54-7 win over the Perth Western Force. I'm a rugby tragic. I played rugby for 25 years. I love it. You don't actually even need to love rugby to understand that the British and Irish Lions is probably the greatest concept in world sport. 4 countries that are bound by the United Kingdom, but at the same time play against each other, have been at war with each other in recent centuries. There's a 130-year history of this team trying to break down the barriers of England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and come together to form a cohesive team. It's a wonderful tradition. I'm so excited for this tour.
Yeah, are they playing in Australia this time as well?
Playing in Australia. They play against each of the local Australian teams before a 3-match test series against the Wallabies.
And how are they doing so far?
So they played their first game this morning against, yesterday evening Australian time in Perth. They beat the Perth team 54-7.
Wow.
Fantastic, boys. Well done.
Sterner challenges await against the Aussie team.
You're fully integrated now, so you must be supporting the Lions, I'm guessing.
I said this when we talked about the Ashes last week. I'd probably go to war for this country, but I draw the line at supporting the English cricket and rugby.
Deport him, send him back.
Send him
on a slow boat.
Detain and deport. I'll give you... someone report him to Prevent.
Put me in one of those nice hotels.
Make him pedal back. A pedal boat.
We need to get him sat in a room watching... what's that Netflix show again called?
Adolescence?
Adolescence. That's what needs to happen. Right, Renee.
OK, so you may have noticed that Kai is not in his usual seat and we have BB. This is because Kai has actually joined an underground campaign of activists who are doing what's called beaver bombing. They are releasing, they say they're doing God's work, and they are releasing beavers into the wild because they know that the world needs more beavers. And who can argue with this? So, Kai, we're with you. Carry on the good work and get as many beavers as you can.
Yes.
Are there deep underground beavers and they do bunker buster beaver bombing?
Right, yeah. Just to clarify, just because, Renee is... she's so good at this. You would believe her. Yeah, you would believe her. That is not where Kai is. Just like this, before he sues me and sues Renee, he's taken some very well earned time off. Let's put it that way. We do love beavers on this channel, though. We got a lot of beaver news. Almost every week we do a beaver segment because
it is a true story. The activists are releasing beavers.
It is a true story.
I love the image of Kai in camo in the kind of
in the wild,
kind of just boom, and then he goes back. Boom.
Yeah, I can still see him handling out non-crime hate incidents in the Welsh valleys. Anyway, so I've got something special for you this week because, of course, today is Armed Forces Day, isn't it? One of the most important days in the calendar, in my opinion, because our armed services they represent the best of Britain, in my opinion. These are people who have given up their lives for service. They are ready to go to war for our country. They are brave, patriotic people who put this country above their own self-interest, which I think is one of the most incredible things they can do. Of course, many celebrations up and down the country today. What I think is maybe a travesty is that this isn't like a month-long celebration of the great work they do, because we have month-long celebrations of other things, don't we, Will?
Yep. Yeah, that's right. We keep saying that there is a month for pride and yet there's a day for the wonderful men and women who served this country and indeed served across the West. But look, let's not let that take away from admiring and being incredibly grateful for their service.
Yes, I wish that as a country, every time we met a veteran, we did what they do in the States and we thanked them for their service, because we should.
Yes, absolutely. Trey?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, we spoke about how many of them end up on the street homeless and they're almost just discarded and, disregarded, and that's quite sad, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, Benjamin, we talk about the armed services, armed forces a lot on this show, on this channel, actually. Maybe it's just not on just this show, but on the channel. And, I think it's quite good that Keir Starmer wants to commit to more defence spending. Is it going to go to the right people?
Yeah, and also I think often we forget about those people that serve when they finished serving, which is a real failure as a country.
Yes.
And don't forget, this is the week, of course, where the Labour government have decided they're going to introduce a law that was not in force when our armed services were in Northern Ireland, and they're going to prosecute them now for crimes which were not illegal then but are now, if this new law is changed. We are letting them down.
Well, I hope they all win, whatever happens, because it is high five, so let's give them some support. Yeah. High five.
Yep.
Trey, what have you got?
So I have got someone who has been named as the 87th most influential person on the LGBT power list, and of course it is our very own sexy Benjamin. What have you got to say about that?
I'm just livid at the 86 people in front of me. I don't know what makes me the 87th most... I'm not even the most influential gay on this panel, but...
Will's number one.
Yeah. I used to be 70-something most powerful gay man.
Oh, you've gone down.
Yeah.
You've gone down. What happened?
Have you got less
I know what happened.
I've got less gay.
There it is. There it is. It's on screen there. Congratulations.
How many people are in this list?
There's 100.
Okay, so you're right near the backwash. I think I know what happened. I think when he was in Israel, they put him down a few pegs.
Maybe. But I was very grateful in the Rainbow Honours, the organisation behind it, I went to last night, and they had Sister Sledge with Linda Robson for me.
There you go. That's quite a nice honour,
Who's number one, out of curiosity?
I don't care about the other ones.
Nobody else has gone.
Not me.
Okay, stay with you, Benjamin. What have you got?
So this is I don't know if you've seen a new sandwich, a strawberry sandwich from M&S. Now, this is strawberry, whipped cream and sweetened bread. We had a nightmare getting hold of this.
We did.
We did?
I've spoken to M&S. This is the best-selling food item in the, company this week.
Wow.
God,
We're going to do a taste test.
What is it? What is in it?
So, strawberry, if you can see on the camera there, strawberry, whipped cream and sweetened bread. It's a Japanese idea. So this is a British take.
I'm gonna.
I bet it's really nice.
Pass it around, I suppose.
No. We're not doing that. No, I'm okay.
You okay?
I leave it.
Pass along.
All right, give it to
You've got to do it now, Alex.
Can I just thank our lovely production staff who have given this up? This was their dessert, actually, and they kindly surrendered it for this fantastic show.
It's quite nice.
That's actually really, really
nice.
good.
I think it's
that's not too bad.
That is really, really nice. It shouldn't work, but it really works.
It wouldn't work, but it does.
It does, yeah.
It's the strawberry and cream. I mean, of course it's going to work.
It's the whipped cream really makes it. I think the bread could be a bit sweeter.
Yes.
But it's nice.
Can I just say...
the flavours interact.
It really works.
Do you want me to pass it back?
A Victoria sandwich, isn't it, or something?
Okay.
This is mine now.
It's
you
so hard
guys
to
can
get.
finish the sandwich on the break, all right? Time now for the Great British Giveaways. Your chance to win £54,321. It's our biggest cash prize to date. All of that tax-free cash could be yours. And here's Hayley Sparks with all the details.
This is your chance to enjoy luxury this summer. It's our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. What would you do with that? With all of that cash, you could just chill out, treat yourself and indulge in the finer things in life. Somewhere like here, Downhall Hotel and Spa. You really could win the cash giveaway of the summer. Go on, treat yourself.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Oh, stop talking, you. Sorry. I mean, it's so impossible to keep, because once they've had a pint, they're just completely wild. Anyway, we've got triggered tantrums coming up, so you don't want to miss that. We're also going to break some news for you on the back of that Glastonbury story we've been talking about for the last couple of hours. Don't go anywhere.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5 Extra. I told you we're going to bring you some breaking news. Now, it's come to our attention at GB News here that police are assessing comments made by the band Kneecap and Bob Vylan. You saw those pictures earlier on, courtesy of Mark White, and of course we broke it earlier on the show. After those acts have sparked outrage, of course they were shouting things like "Death to the IDF" and "Free, Free Palestine." Of course, here on GB News, stay tuned because we'll bring you more of that as it breaks in the next few hours, of course. But now we're going to go back to something a little bit lighter again. It's time for Triggered Tantrums. And have you ever been on a plane with someone a little bit overweight and wondered whether they should be paying for your seat, not the other way around? Take a look at this.
My body isn't the problem, the system is. Airlines are making it difficult for plus-size people to travel by designing seats that are too small for even the average human. My worst experience on a flight was this one time when I was flying standby and I got stuck in the bulkhead row where the armrest couldn't be moved.
She was bigger than the suitcase she was pushing.
That's not plus size. That's morbidly obese.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the vacuousness of not looking at herself in the mirror and going, actually, do you know what? I am the problem, not the airlines.
It's more than that. It's the glorification of it.
Yeah.
She seems to take a deal of pride in it because, it's this kind of the anti-fat shaming movement. It's the fat pride movement.
Yeah. What do you make of it, Benjamin?
I'm trying so hard to be woke.
Something changed in you in Israel,
really
mate.
Testing my boundaries with this one. I mean, look, the system isn't the problem. The system of how much fat you put in your body is what has made that system. Have any of you ever got on a plane and thought the seat was weirdly small? I've never had that. I've never thought that.
I do think, I mean, I completely agree with you. I don't think anyone can back her up. But I don't think plane seats seem to have got a bit smaller. Doesn't it seem quite cramped a little bit?
But I don't feel they've got squidged inwards. I think it's
the person in front of you, and when they put their seats down, it's like, whoa.
It's a different thing. I mean,
it's a different thing.
Yeah, her problem is not the size of her legs.
You can't defend that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a son who's 6'5". He really struggles.
He must struggle,
that isn't his fault. That's your fault.
But hang on. You can, if you want to fit your long legs in, you pay extra for special legs.
Quite well.
Why don't we say to her, you pay extra for your extra fat?
Right, Benjamin, you've got a trigger tantrum for us. What is it?
I'll do this, yes. So the US Defence Secretary, we've heard a lot from him, Pete Hegseth, well, he's a man that you'd want to be pretty calm in a tough situation. Turns out, when he was quizzed about leaking, he got angry pretty quickly.
Somebody somewhere is trying to leak something to say, oh, with low confidence, we think maybe it's moderate. Those that drop the bombs precisely in the right place know exactly what happened when that exploded. And you know who else knows? Iran.
So
that guy's got the nuclear code.
Hegseth worked at Fox News, and there were accusations from his Fox colleagues that he had a drinking problem, and so that potentially doesn't help with those accusations.
Well, thank you all so much for joining tonight. It's been a really great episode of the Saturday 5 and the Saturday 5 Extra, of course. And I hope you've all enjoyed it at home. Of course, we've got loads more Saturday 5s coming up for you throughout the next few weekends. So stay tuned. But, of course, we've got the fantastic Ben Leo tonight coming up next. Ben, what have you got for us, mate?
Alex, welcome back. Yes, Dame Priti Patel will be on the show imminently to talk about the situation at Glastonbury.
Is it time the licence fee was pulled from the BBC? They've had so many gaffes in recent years. Dame Pretty's going to be live in just a tick. And also, by the way, I went to a Welsh town which has 14 barbershops slash hair salons. More after the weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It's been a very warm day for many of us today, and that heat continues to build over the next couple of days, particularly across the southeast, all thanks to an area of high pressure that's building from the south of the UK, pushing its way north and eastwards over the next couple of days. We do still have this weather front across northern areas, though. That will continue to bring some cloud and rain as we head through the rest of Saturday evening, mainly across northwestern parts of England, perhaps into northern parts of Wales, southwest England too. But elsewhere, generally a dry night to come, plenty of clear spells into the early hours of Sunday morning, and a very mild night to come too. Temperatures in the south not dropping below the high teens for many places. A little fresher further north, but still staying well into the double figures for most places. So a very mild start to the day on Sunday, perhaps still quite a cloudy start across parts of Wales, southwest England. We could continue to see some outbreaks of patchy rain and drizzle. Elsewhere in England, though, generally a dry and bright start to the morning, and a similar picture too across parts of Northern Ireland. Scotland generally seeing some early sunshine as well, plenty of clear and blue skies through the morning. One or two isolated showers across the very far northeast, but elsewhere staying dry to start on Sunday. That cloud does continue across parts of Wales, southwest England as we head through the afternoon. Maybe one or two isolated showers just feeding into Northern Ireland, and some longer spells of rain into northwest Scotland too. But elsewhere, generally staying dry, plenty of sunshine on offer as we head through Sunday afternoon. And again, feeling really warm across the southeast, highs of 29, 30, potentially 31 degrees, and even across parts of Scotland into the low 20s. A very mild start to the day on Monday, potentially a little warmer start on Monday compared to Sunday. The northwest does continue to see some outbreaks of potentially quite heavy rain feeding in from the northwest, but for much of England and Wales, a dry and bright afternoon to come. And the temperatures likely peaking on Monday or Tuesday, around 34, potentially 35 degrees, but then feeling fresher by the middle of the week.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.